That's the acting U.S. attorney announcing terrorism charges against the suspect in yesterday's deadly attack in New York. 8 people were killed and 12 seriously injured when a truck drove down a bike path. The CBC's Ellen Morrow is at the scene of yesterday's attack. Ellen, good evening to you. What can you tell us about the charges and what we learned about the alleged attacker?
Well, Carol, those charges were outlined in court documents that were filed tonight. And in those court documents, we're also getting a lot more in terms of what led up to this attack. And the details are quite disturbing. These court documents say that the suspect in this attack, Sayfullah Saipov, was inspired to commit this attack by watching ISIS propaganda videos online. And these documents also say that Saipov chose to launch this attack on Halloween on purpose because he thought more people would be out and about on the streets and therefore make this attack as deadly as possible. These documents also say that the plan was for this attack to be much more deadly, that the plan was to drive along the tip of Lower Manhattan to the Brooklyn Bridge. That would have resulted in many more people being injured as a result of this attack. In terms of other elements to these court documents, they say that Saipov wanted to have ISIS flags on the vehicle but decided not to because of the obvious attention that would draw to the vehicle. These files also claim that he's asked to have an ISIS flag hung in his hospital room, Carol. So these court records paint a picture of a very radicalized individual. Now, in terms of other developments in the investigation tonight, the FBI a short time ago said it was looking for a second man in connection with this attack, another Uzbek national. And shortly after that alert came out, the FBI said that they have located that man. Here's a little bit more on that.
We are no longer looking for the person the information went out about. That's all I want to say. There's no reason for me to seek a name anymore. We have found him, and I'll leave it at that.
Now, Carol, it's unclear what the relation this man has to the attack, what kind of information the FBI is hoping to get out of them. And what officials have emphasized all day is that this investigation is obviously in its very early phases.
Ellen, you've been on the scene all day today. How have people there been dealing with it?
Well, it's been somewhat of a mixed reaction. The overall feeling is one of resilience. Of course, New Yorkers are famous for their resilience, but for people who live in this neighborhood, there is also a sense of shock and, of course, sadness today. Now, right next to where I'm standing, there's a schoolyard, and we've seen kids playing out in the schoolyard for recess. We saw parents dropping off kids this morning, and I spoke to a few of the parents just to get a sense of how they're feeling, given this attack happened just down the street from their children's school. And this is what one mother told me this afternoon.
The aftermath is being harder for me than actually yesterday. I have 3 kids, but the younger one, I pick it up in time in school before the event or the incident, you know. And my middle daughter, who does go to the middle school exactly where the accident happened, she was, I'm gonna say, stuck in the school for 2 hours.
But even after that mother told me how she was feeling, she went on to talk about just how strong New Yorkers are. And that, again, is the overall feeling here today. I spoke to one born and raised New Yorker this afternoon who talked about the city coming together and invoked the memory of 9/11 when talking about how the city is coming together today. Have a listen.
This brings us all together. I was around for September 11th, and I just saw the camaraderie after that happened in the city. People were a little bit more nicer to each other, a little bit more empathetic to each other as well. And we're a strong city, we're strong people, and I believe that we'll get through this.
So again, that feeling of resiliency, Carol, but New Yorkers will see a heightened security presence on the streets of New York in the coming days. Authorities say that's not in response to another looming threat, but more as a precautionary measure, one meant to reassure the public.
All right, Ellen, thank you. Ellen Morrow in New York City tonight.